Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a soggy Tuesday evening. Oh, sorry. I hate to wear this in front of Kiki because I know he probably hasn't ordered a rain suit yet. So let me get this Aftco Hydronaut off real quick here.
It looks like a brand new.
It is. That's how I roll. I buy stuff and I use it once every 3 years.
Nice. I see Matt and Mark and Dennis are on.
Matt was first. So if we're keeping track, Matt was first. Mark was right in there, and then Dennis.
All right. Saw Mark this weekend. Saw Dennis this weekend. At Big Hill. Didn't see Mark at Big Hill. Saw Dennis at Big Hill.
Cool. Well, guys, if it isn't raining where you are, it will be shortly.
Looked like a pretty good storm getting ready to roll through here. I don't know. And there's Brandon.
Awesome.
Real quick, I just want to thank everybody for all the birthday wishes. Like, I got way more wishes than I thought I realized I had friends. So, and I went through them, and I actually consider almost all of them a friend.
Wow.
Like, I would consider just about everybody that wished me a happy birthday, and even maybe one or two that didn't, or that wished me that I didn't consider friends. Maybe they are now. That was pretty good.
Well, good.
Had a good weekend. Didn't really do much. Fished Big Hill. Didn't catch at Big Hill. Fished at Big Hill. Maybe the worst I've done at Big Hill all year. So anyway, just wanted to thank everybody.
Well, you're quite welcome. Did you get your AARP card renewed, or?
Shoot, I've had that for 10 years, dude. Don't you get that when you're 50 nowadays?
I've
had it for 10 years.
6-0.
Mm-hmm.
Big John, 6-0. Still acts like he's 16.
Sometimes. But it's good. All good.
It's weird when you're a teenager and you hear somebody's 30 and you're like, oh my God, I can't imagine being 30. And then you're like, oh, there's no way I'll ever live to be 60. And here we are.
Yes. I will admit, I struggled with it for a bit. The 60, the 6-0. But I was out fishing. I was at Big Hill on Sunday. Why I went back for more punishment, I have no idea. But I did. I fished ABA there Saturday. And just all I needed to do was like finish in the top 5 to continue to lead the points. And did I do that? No, absolutely not. I finished in the 10th. I finished 10th. So now I'm not leading the points. But that's beside the point. So then we had a club tournament there the next day. Supposedly had a club tournament. So I'm like, do I go back? Do I not? I don't know if I want to submit myself to this much punishment. It's my birthday. But what would I rather do on my birthday than fish? I certainly didn't want to fish on Grand with the 700 boats that were out there and the pleasure boaters. So I went back to Big Hill. And I pull in the parking lot. Mr. Club President. And there's nobody there. Nobody. So I text Terry, the tournament director, are we still having this thing? And I texted him the night before. How many votes do you think? Club tournament. He said probably 8-ish. Okay. Texted him after I pull in the ramp and there's not a car in the parking lot. He doesn't answer. I'm like, well, I'm going fishing. I put the boat in, walk back up, or get ready to walk to the boat, and Terry, the tournament director, pulls in. This was like 6 o'clock, and we're supposed to leave at 6:30. Now there's 2 of us in the park. So that was it. So quickly, the only people that showed up, we threw our money in the hat, and the 3 of us went. Terry had a partner with him, and I was by myself. So the 3 of us put some money in the pot, and we went. I got second. Should have just said I got second, not told y'all there were 3 people. Little disappointing, you know. It'd be nice if the club members would let Terry know they're not coming, so that if there's only going to be 3 people, we cancel it or something. Because Grand's a long way to drive for 3 people. But I say that to say this: I was out there fishing and not catching. But Kyle, you'll appreciate this. I told Terry I was not going to go above the bridge on Sunday, that I was going to not go up the river, not go up the creek, even though I know I can go up there and catch fish. And so I'm out there all day, not catching fish, not comfortable, but I never did. I made myself, I thought about it multiple times. I'm going to run up there, and I didn't. I'm like, I'm just going to learn some spots out here, and I did catch fish, and I probably had enough on to win the tournament. Nothing big, but Terry won it with 8 pounds, and I had 5 pounds, 3 fish. Terry had a limit. Anyway, kind of sounds like it was tough fishing. But I'm over by the swimming beach, like at 2 o'clock, and I'm just fishing around the ramp, you know, just fishing. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, there's a lot worse things I could be doing, a lot worse places. It's a beautiful day. I'm catching fish, but no big fish. And I hear this kid at the swimming beach laughing, like belly laughing, giggling, like the kind of laugh that you can't do anything but just laugh with him, right? It's like infectious. And I thought at that point, this is what it's all about. Like, just being out here in nature, thankful that I made it to 60, thankful that I'm still alive, thankful that I'm not a scoper where I can actually hear stuff that's going on around me and notice things that are going around me, and that I'm just enjoying nature. That's what I thought at that point. Right or wrong, that's what I thought. And it was fun. At that point, and like I said, I was kind of a little bit struggling with the 6-0 thing, but at that point, I was like, okay, I'm just happy to be here, happy to be fishing, hearing that kid laugh like not a care in the world. It was awesome.
Absolutely.
That was my weekend.
Well, very cool.
I don't know who Kyle's texting, but I can hear it going over the.
They're texting about you.
They probably are.
Hey, we had some guys do some good over the weekend, and I wanted to throw up a couple of pictures. I already threw one up by accident. Anglers in action at Table Rock. Past guest Hunter Baird and his butt. I believe that's Dane. I'm not sure. Maybe if Jason's still watching, he could tell me exactly who Hunter's fishing with. But
Hunter on the right. Hunter on the right. For those
Hunter is on the
know.
right. Nice breeches, boys.
Yeah.
That's some nice fishing apparel. They won the Anglers in action for a nice little payday on Table Rock. Super cool. And we had past regular guest and Alber's Marine team guys, Scott and Dominic. They took second in the Future Bass with a nice bag.
Yeah.
Great job to Scott and Dominic. Awesome job. Really cool. And I don't think my my super special guest is going to pop in. A couple weeks ago we had KBN Secretary Brad Van Riet on the show, and he and I had been kicking around this idea about doing a once in a while podcast or live for KBN and doing like question and answer, upcoming events, that kind of thing. And we're going to actually try and start that tomorrow evening. Planning for 7:00, but as I might mention, and you can certainly understand, the weather has come to play in our plans. Brad has lost internet at home. He did just comment, so he is watching, but unable to join. We're going to try and do that live from the KBN page, probably 7:00. It's not going to be an every week thing. It's going to be a once a month or more as we get closer to an event. So I hope you guys will check us out. But with all that rambling and preamble, we do have a guest this evening, don't we?
We do.
I'm pretty excited about this one.
I'm very excited about it.
You guys, would you like his proper introduction before you click him in, D?
I'm not about to until you give the proper introduction.
So I would like to say shout out to Dom and Scott. I saw they were commenting. That's cool, and kudos to you guys for putting a whooping on at least me and Moody. 21.5 pounds in the Future Bass, and still coming in second place. I feel sorry for Scott a little bit because he's caught a couple of really nice bags down there and just still ended up with the second place finish, and that's got to be tough. But two-time Bass Elite winner. He's won over 1.7 million. He's fished 204 total tournaments with Bassmaster, and he's cashed 144 times. He's from Brookville, Indiana. Dollar Bill Lowen.
Hey, Bill.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you.
Yeah, we're excited to have you.
D, the screen's black.
My screen's not black.
That's on you. brother.
Yeah, I think that's your problem.
You're good.
It's on your side, buddy.
That's weird.
I think we're all good. We can see you.
I just got a tornado warning for Tulsa, so maybe you're in a tornado.
Oh, man. I might not be able to stay on here very long.
We will see.
I don't have anywhere. I don't have anywhere to go. We're in the safest. I'm in the safest spot in the lodge, so maybe Val will come over and join us. Bill, how you been?
But I've been good. It's been a long season up to this point. I know we were talking about it a little bit before the show started, but this week's been the first week that I pretty much have been home since February. So I'm just trying to get my feet back on the ground, go through equipment, tackle, see what soft plastics I got, what I'm out of, line. Been a long week, and we're getting ready to roll out of here Thursday to head to Oklahoma. So, yeah, it's been a long year, and it's still going to be a long year. I'm fishing both tours this year, but the elites and the NPFL. So, it's been a long season so far.
What's it like fishing both, other than being long?
Well, kind of makes me question what I was thinking when I wake up every morning. But I've always said that I tend to do better when I'm fishing like that because, truly, honestly, you don't have time to think about it. You just put your shoes on and you just go. You know what I mean? You make decisions you think you need to make. You fish by the seat of your pants. And for me, when I'm fishing like that, I tend to do my best. And I'm kind of concerned that this little break might throw me off track, but we're just going to keep our head down and just keep grinding like we've been doing all year.
You're having a good year. I think you're sitting in seventh in the bass side. I don't know off the top. How are you doing in the NPFL? I don't know.
Think I'm right around there, fifth, sixth, seventh, something on that side as well. So
that's what I thought.
Yeah,
So,
it's been fun.
Yeah, having a good year. We kind of touched on it a little bit when we were talking coming in, but last year you didn't have such a great year, and we talked about maybe what do you think the cause of that was, and what's different this year from last year?
Well, I think, when you just stop and look at the big picture, regardless of what kind of angler you are, whether you're a shallow water angler or a deep water angler or a finesse fisherman or you're a forward-facing sonar guy, we all have what I call our own style or our own comfort zone. And it's no secret. Have made my career being a predominant shallow water power fisherman. I grew up right here on the Ohio River where that's all we knew how to do. And I just carried that over to the elites. And, when my career first started, all my buddies said, Bill, how are you going to go to all these lakes you've never been to? You don't know how to fish deep. You don't know how to fish offshore. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go fish the way that I fish. And if it doesn't work, I don't need to be there. And here we are 20 years later with me fishing my style and making a great career out of it. But with that being said, last year, or actually, let's just go back, 2 or 3 years have kind of been my off years. I've missed the last 3 classics. And that was right about that time that forward-facing sonar really come in heavy on the scene. And I'll just be honest with you. I got so torn between, do I forget everything I basically know and try to learn this forward-facing sonar thing, or do I keep fishing the way I've been fishing for, 18 years? And I really got just so caught up in that, and I felt like every time I put the boat in the water, that I needed to be focusing on the forward-facing sonar because that's the way everything was getting won. That's the way everybody was catching the big bags. The talk was like, you'll never win on the bank ever again. And like, I don't know. I just was like, felt like I was in a whirlwind all the time. I'm with Johnson Outdoorsman, Coda, Hummingbird. We struggled right there when forward-facing sonar come on with Mega Live. now, thank God, we got that kind of rectified, and we got a piece of equipment that is that you can compete with. Um, so, with all that being said, um, when this year started, I told my wife that we're going to do what Bill Lowen does. We're going to put a flipping rod in my hand, a swim jig. We're going to go fish shallow like we do. If we get in situations where we know we may have to fish with forward facing sonar, let's use a Lake St. Clair, a place like that, where we know that we're going to have to use forward facing sonar, then that's what we'll do. But if not, we're going to fish the way that I fish. And that's the way we started the year off. And I couldn't have wrote the script any better. You know what I mean? You start the year off with a win, um, in Bill Lowen fashion or style, with a flipping jig and a swim jig. Um, but with that being said, I almost got my butt whooped by the scopers. You know what I mean? I think everybody behind me was pretty much catching fry garters on live scope. And just, it's just, I'm always amazed at how dominant forward facing sonar has become, regardless of where we go in the country. But I'm kind of glad now that I kind of found my happy place amongst all that. I spent the whole season last fall kind of really buckling down on forward facing sonar and figuring out baits and angles and things you needed to do to get bit on that and get comfortable with that. Like I said, we finally got Mega Live 2 now that I feel like I can compete with that. Yeah, so it's just, it's really cool to be kind of back in what I call my groove or in my comfort zone. Um, and it's been a fun season so far.
Is there something that you do or make yourself do to when you're in a slump? Because I'll be honest with you, right now I'm in a funk. Like,
I don't want to talk to you right now.
I mean,
We're talking to the guy that's in 7th in AOY and Bassmaster Angler.
yeah, but I mean, like, hey, he wasn't though. I mean, you got out of that this year, so you were.
So last year, coming off my worst year ever, and I think I was 85th or 84th in points. That was the first time in my career that I ever been below the cut line. So it was hard for me to stomach,
Yeah.
And I've always said, when you're in that slump, the more you fight it, the worse it gets, right? You start doing things you typically wouldn't do. You overthink everything, which is very easy to do in bass fishing. You know what I mean? My biggest thing for me has just been like, take a step back. I'm a big hunter in the fall, whitetail, waterfowl. And I spent a lot of time, like I said, focusing on that forward facing sonar, but also recharging my batteries, sitting in a tree stand or sitting in a blind. But with that being said, the best tip that I can give for kind of getting out of that slump is go with your comfort zone, right? Go with what you're really good at and listen to your gut, right? And what I mean by listening to your gut is, doesn't matter what the conditions are on the water, your gut's always telling you to do something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Last year I was fighting what my gut was telling me to do, because I felt like I had to be scoping or trying to scope or whatever. And this year, and the reason I'm talking about this is because this year, every single time that my gut has told me to do something, like, hey, just run over here and make a pitch in this tree, or go over here and fish this boat dock, or just whatever my gut has told me to do this year, I've done it, and it has worked every single time. Like, when I say every single time, like fish that I typically would have never caught, like a 6-pounder on my last cast or a 4-pounder on my last cast, or just because I've been listening to what my gut's been telling me to do. And if I had to pick one thing that totally has got me out of that, is going back to fishing in my comfort zone and listening to my gut. And it's just like, it's been a 180 from last year. Um, and when you're fishing like that, you're making really good calls, you're making good decisions, and everything's clicking. You know what that feels like. And John, I mean, I've been there. and I know what it's like to be in that slump. And it's hard to get out of it, and you're fighting it right now. I know you are trying to figure out how to get out of it. But like I said, the more you fight it, the worse it gets. So you almost just kind of got to reset and just simplify things and go back to what you're good at and um, what your comfort zone is, and just roll with it. I know it's easy to sit here and say that while we're talking on camera, but that's exactly what I've done, and it's working out great.
So you're saying when I went back to Big Hill on Sunday and I said, I am not going to run above the bridge, I did the complete opposite of what I should have done.
Probably.
Because my gut was telling me,
go up the river.
Go up there.
Yep.
And do your thing. And I didn't.
You went up there and finished third.
Yeah, probably. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, that whole listening to your gut thing. And I've talked about that for years and years and years and years. And like I said, the last 2 or 3 years, I've been fighting that a lot. And this year, I'm actually probably going to pull some clips off of my camera that have been running for every event, because every one of them in the last, hour of the day, my guts told me to do something, and I've done it, and have been, rewarded basically with a kicker bite. And had I not listened to my gut or done what my gut told me to do, I wouldn't have got that bite. We just come off of an MPFL at Douglas, and it was very easy to catch 10 pounds there, but it was hard to get over that 12-pound mark, right? And I had a stretch of bank that I'd fished for 2 days and hadn't had a bite on it because the wind was wrong. And in the last 30 minutes of the last day, I run to this one tree that I had some bites in. Had enough time to fish that one tree. First cast of the tree, I catch one that was a little over a four something. And that gave me 14 and a half pounds and jumped me up from basically 30th place all the way to 17th, 18th, something in the standings, simply by listening to my gut and running to a tree that was, 10 miles away to make 3 or 4 casts. And like I said, the last 2 or 3 years, I have not been listening to my gut and making that call. And I can honestly say that every event this year, there's been something like that happens because my gut's been telling me to do something, and I've been listening to it.
Do you think that it was Pickwick when you finally pulled off a win that maybe helped you fish a little bit more free or give you more confidence, or what was?
I think that Pickwick may have been when my downhill slide started after Pickwick. And what I mean by that is, I got the nickname Dollar Bill because I've always been so consistent and always cashing checks. And after that win at Pickwick, all I wanted to do was win again. You know what I mean? Typically for me, when I put the boat in the water, I'd be going out trying to figure out first how to catch enough bass just to get paid, right?
Sure.
And then if I had an opportunity to win or do really well, then so be it, right? Well, after that win at Pickwick, I kind of threw that out the window, and I was like, all I want to do is win again. You know what I mean? Instead of going and catching a limit, I was like going for the throat. And I think it had a lot to do with just like I wasn't fishing the way I traditionally fished, and I just wanted to get another win. You know what I mean? Heck, can you blame me for that?
No, absolutely not.
So since then, it's kind of been a struggle for me. I think I've missed the last 3 classics since I won at Pickwick, and I don't want to miss another one, So I'm going back to being consistent. First, we're going to figure out how to cash a check, and if we got an opportunity to win, and then so be it. But blue trophies are hard to come by. I'm so blessed and fortunate to have 2 of them. But for me, at the end of the day, it's all about being consistent and cashing those checks and qualifying for the classic. So that's just the way we're going to do it from here on out.
I skimmed over some of your previous tournaments that you've had pretty good success in, and it looked like Florida was kind of a tough one for you.
You know, Florida to me is like I either do really good or really bad. You know.
Did you? Was that a? I didn't really ever hear the kind of lowdown on that. I mean, you surely fished the St. John's a ton, haven't you? I
Oh, a
mean,
bunch. Yeah, absolutely.
was that an area that you just kind of stumbled upon when you were practicing this go around, or had it historically been decent?
So I don't know how many years we'd be going to the St. Johns River, um, but I've always predominantly went north. If you like a lot of the footage they have of me with a camera in my boat on the St. Johns River, I've always went north. Very rarely did I ever go south, and if I did, I was kind of maybe fishing in Lake George when we had eelgrass, or maybe in the springs when it was really cold. But predominantly for me, I'd always go north. Um, so I have a lot of history going north. I know where every creek is up there, every ditch, everywhere that a bass lives. I've pretty much been in it. So this tournament was no different for me. I went north and figured out how to get some bites. And to be totally honest with you, I had no idea that I was on the caliber of fish that I was on.
That's
I fished
cool.
in that deep creek one day of practice and just kind of made a pass through there, and I had 8 or 9 bites, and I caught a couple of them. And the biggest fish I caught, I didn't catch a 4 pounder, maybe a heavy 3 pounder. And I thought, you know what, this, it's got potential. It's setting up right for the cold front that's coming because some places in that creek were 20 or 30 foot deep. So I just felt like the water temperature in that creek wouldn't be affected as much as, let's say, some of the shallower stuff. So it was just a perfect storm scenario for me where the weather set up right. And fortunately, I only had one other angler in there with me for 3 days. Jason Christie showed up in there, and he was amazing that when he saw me in there, that he turned around and left and said, "Hey, you got a shot to win. I'm going to get out of here." Because that's the guy you don't want in an area with you when you're catching him on a swim jig, because he can swim with the best of them. But yeah, it was, like I said, I had no idea that I was on that caliber of fish, and I actually had 2 other areas up the river that I thought were better than Deep Creek. But what happened in those was the cold front. The water temperature dropped like 10 degrees in those. So where Deep Creek was still staying in that 62 to 64 degree range, the other 2 places were like 52 degrees. So anybody that knows anything about Florida knows that when the water gets that cold, things get really tough. So it was just one of them deals where perfect storm and everything worked out.
Well, it's pretty cool to see that happen, man. It was awesome. I can't say enough about it. You're one of
Yeah,
those guys that stuck it out when a lot of the original guys left, and so I've always kind of tried to cheer the most for those guys,
Right, right. Yeah, that was definitely a mess when we had to split. That's for sure.
And it's cool to see some guys kind of think grass isn't quite as green as I thought it was on the other side, or whatever. For whatever reason, they decided they wanted to try to come back and requalify, and some of them did, and I think that's great too, But how's the NPFL?
So the NPFL has been honestly really, really fun. I mean, to put the boat in the water and just know that you're going to go fishing off 100% instincts. I mean, go fishing the way I feel bass fishing was intended to be. You know what I mean? To me, bass fishing has always been a process of seasonal patterns, weather conditions, water conditions, rising water, falling water, bait selections, retrieves, presents. You know what I mean? Just all that comes down to instincts and time on the water. And when you put the boat in over there and that's what you're going to do, it's a really cool feeling. I mean, it's really hard to explain. Um, it feels to me like when I put the boat in the water that I'm not even going fishing at a tournament. It's just so much like, I don't know, it's just so relaxed and so much like you just don't feel like you have all this pressure on you because you're going to go fish against the fish. You know what I mean? You're going to go use your instincts that you've been doing for that I've been doing for 30 plus years. And I just feel like when you have that kind of knowledge and, you know what I mean, you're fishing the way that I feel it's intended to be. It's a lot of fun, man. It's just really a lot of fun.
Are you you like not having that thought in the back of your head that somebody's using the black box?
I mean, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I like that feeling. Like I said, I mean, I've been fighting it for years, you know, trying to learn it, and I've learned it, you know, and I just hate to always hear like, all you old guys are just stubborn and don't want to learn it. And it's like, no, it's not that I'm stubborn and I don't want to learn it, but I have 30 plus years of knowledge of learning other things, like everything about a balsa crankbait or a spinnerbait or a buzzbait or a flipping jig or a swim jig or heck, a Carolina rig, whatever that may be. Like growing up as a kid, like I just figured out everything there was to learn about every single bait and every presentation and how it reacted on different size lines and different rods. And I mean, you can't put a price on that kind of knowledge, or you know what I mean,
Sure.
to have and to feel like that stuff was no longer important. It's like honestly broke my heart, you know. So like I said, man, I've been struggling up and down, climbing walls, just trying to balance it all out. Um, and Yeah, hopefully we figured that out. But yeah, it feels good to put the boat in the water knowing that um, we're going fishing off of instincts for sure.
If you were to put the chance of BASS changing the rules next year, what's the percentage of that chance? And
You know, honestly, I don't know, and I don't know how to put a number on um, what that would be. Um, I think, and you know, like this is my opinion. We all have opinions, and the thing I hate about talking about forward-facing sonar is you either get praised or you get crucified for your opinion, right? Um,
Yeah.
and that's kind of pretty much the way it is in everything. Whether we're talking about fishing, deer hunting, waterfowl hunting, it doesn't even matter. Heck, we could be talking about Chevys or Fords. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. Um, so I always feel like you got to be careful, you know, what you say or how you say it. Pretty much.
I can answer that question, Kyle.
I want to know from somebody that's possibly voted for it.
Well,
I can answer the question. You asked the question, what's the percentage that it will be changed?
I asked the percentage on a scale from 1 to 10, 100% being it's probably going to be changed, and 10% means
100%.
100% it's going to be changed. I like the way you think, John.
In some form or fashion.
Right. Well,
I think it will be.
I
It's
think
not going to be what it is this year. Put it that way.
I think it has to be changed.
I do too.
And what I mean by that is like, look, it's no secret. Forward-facing sonar is the most amazing piece of equipment we've ever seen when it comes to fishing. It is the most dominant piece of equipment that we've ever seen, and it's obvious. I mean, you can just look at the tournament results, and it doesn't matter if we're the elites, MLF, high school, college. I mean, it is so dominant that it comes a point where, like, if you ain't doing that, you one don't have a chance, or two don't feel like you have a chance to be able to compete. And there's never been a piece of equipment that is that dominant, you know. And you know, once again, it's like, hey, you old guys just need to learn how to do this, right? And it's like, well, what about my 35 years or 40 years of learning on the water? Why don't you, as a young angler, have to learn that? You know, why don't you have to learn baits and seasonal patterns and all that, where forward facing sonar kind of cuts all of that out? So I think that something has to be done just to see where the balance is. If nothing else, for the industry as a whole. I feel like it's no secret. We know that the industry as a whole is suffering because of the baits that are being purchased now. We got guys that say, yeah, it's not being affected, but the overall consensus is that it's being affected. You know what I mean? So I think as something definitely has to be done. If that's either being banned or we go 50-50, but I don't think we need to be at a wide open free for all. Let's throw at dots all day. I don't think that that's where the sport needs to be headed. I think if at least if we go half and half, then we see at this point who the most well-rounded anglers are on the tour.
I think that's the key. I mean, me as a fan now, I'm a fan now. I want to see a angler of the year given to somebody that has to do it all. Like, has to do it all. Like, you can't win angler of the year without knowing how to live scope a little bit or forward facing sonar. And you can't win angler of the year without beating the bank a little bit or, fishing the grass or whatever. As a fan, I want to see that. Like you said, a well-rounded, and if that turns out to be Trey McKinney, so be it.
Absolutely.
But at least we will know that he's well-rounded, or
Right.
whoever that is.
And I personally want to know. You know what I mean? I want to know. Just for me, I just want to know.
I mean, you've earned the right to know. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
I personally would like to see the tournaments be a little bit more interesting. And the last few Elite Series tournaments here, I've kind of come to realize that maybe I'm not a fan of watching somebody stare at that screen all day like I thought I was. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that can laugh at this, but I would like to see a rotating course tournament come back again.
That was cool. Yeah.
I would like to see some different things happen. Just make it interesting. I mean,
Right.
I'm not saying it's like, I don't want you guys to turn into just this free for all, we're just doing this for TV kind of concept, but
So let me ask you a question, John, you as well, since like you guys are saying, hey, we're fans now. We want to we want to watch this, and I hear the big argument of like, well, what's the difference if he's staring at a screen and we're looking at his back, or he's flipping bushes and we're looking at his back? Okay. So where do you guys stand on like what determines like, is it better to watch us flip bushes, or is it better for us to look at a screen?
thank goodness Hummingbird put the live screen up when Gussie won the Classic.
Yeah, I mean,
because he was sitting in the middle of the river, and
if we're gonna watch live scoping, we need to see everybody's screen. Like, I think it's very interesting to watch Tucker Smith or whoever it is. I think it's very interesting and amazing to me to watch a guy do something that I'm terrible at, and I'm trying to pick up little things that maybe I can. I mean, I have it on my boat, but I'm just terrible at it, and I'm not at my age. I'm not going to take a whole season or 2 seasons or whatever and try to learn it, because I don't enjoy it. I'm going to go beat the bank or flip docks or whatever.
Well, see, now you're just being old,
Yeah, now I'm just being old. But if I'm going to watch it on TV, I want to see what those guys are doing. And
right, exactly.
I want to, where I can see Pat Schlopper's buzzbait going by a stick and getting inhaled.
I can see Billy Lowen's black and blue swim jig getting flipped in a grass mat on the. I can see the product and I can learn from it.
Well,
I
here's what I joke about with the young guys and that are coming in and that are like really really good at forward facing sonar. I joke with them all the time, jokingly but being serious. Like I have made my career pretty much on teaching anglers how to catch bass, right? Whether that be like I spill all my secrets about swimming a jig, I spill all my secrets about flipping a jig, I spill all my secrets about cranking a square bill through the wood,
yes, please.
whatever that may be. You know what I mean? I've basically made a career on, and that's what you're supposed to do for your
Mhm.
partners, your sponsors. You are supposed to teach, sell product, whatever that may be. And I get a lot of enjoyment out of doing that. So I joke with these guys that are really good, these the rookies and stuff that are coming in, like, hey, dude, when am I like I'm looking like for videos of you showing me like how to wiggle
Yeah,
my minnow on his head. Like, how come I'm not seeing any of that stuff? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
teach me how to do something, right?
yeah. I
Um,
mean, Devin comments here and uh, about us getting to see fish and forward-facing sonar, getting to see the angler, trick the fish into biting. But the problem is we don't. That's only a few anglers it's rare. I mean, it happens when you're watching live and we got 7 people scoping on live. You're not seeing all 7 of them guys screens and how they're doing it. You might see 1 or 2 of them.
You know, to
I'm just saying if I'm going to watch it and if I'm going to learn, because Bill Lowen swims a jig a little bit different than Gerald Swindle. But if I'm going to watch the 2, I want to see what each one of them is doing different. I don't want to watch
absolutely.
just one guy. So we got to be able to see all their screens if they're gonna, have those guys on, and they got to, like you said, they got to teach. Most of them aren't showing the base that they're using.
Yeah, like
You
tell
know,
me what you're doing. Like, and I know just because I've always done this in my career, I know for sure when I was on camera at the St. Johns River swimming that jig, I was just adamant about talking about how I had to swim that jig so slow or float it and the water conditions and the temperatures. And like I talked about that so much, like because that's what I'm supposed to do. You know what I mean? I am
yeah,
supposed to teach you how to catch a bass.
yep,
And I've been doing that my whole career. I don't ever see that, right? I just see the bait go to the fish. He either reacts or he don't. They get the fish in the boat. They throw the bait over the side of the boat. Like, show me. I want to learn. I want to
yeah.
check my
So
minute just like you. You know?
and I can verify this with Bill. All the years I was at Bass, we used to do this. We used to do this elite experience for high school anglers at the elite tournaments on the cut day on Saturday. And I would go to these tournaments, and it wasn't easy for me. Like, I would have to go on like the meeting night, Wednesday night, or whenever the meeting was that week, and get a list of, we only needed 10 or 12, but I would have to get a list of 25 anglers because I didn't know who wasn't going to make the cut. And I didn't know, even after they didn't make the cut, if they would show up, like, because they're mad, they're not going to make, some of them get upset. They want to leave, or they have a sponsor obligation where they can't make it or whatever. But Bill Lowen was always the first one that I would put on the list. And I didn't even have to ask him. I asked him every time, but he's like, yeah, because he was teaching and willing to do it. And if he made the cut, great. If he didn't, and that was hard. Who wants to go? I mean, I go up to Kevin Van Dam and say, hey, bud, if you don't make the cut Saturday, of course, Kevin would always say, sure, I'm going to be there because he'd always make the cut. And he knew that he wasn't going to be there. But, like if I had to go up to whoever, Ish Monroe is you go up to Ish Monroe and ask him if hey, when you don't make the cut, will you work Saturday for me? And see what the response was. But Bill was the complete opposite. Always willing to do it, first one on the list. And then if he didn't make the cut, he was there. Which,
Well,
so
John,
that's
when I started this, and I appreciate you saying that. When I started this, it was never to be like to get the title of one of the best anglers in the world. That was never my goal. My goal has always been from day one is to be like the best ambassador for this sport that I can be. And that's kind of the way I've always, you know what I mean? When I was growing up, somebody was always taking time out of their schedule to help me, whether that was hunting or fishing, or, my dad was a tournament angler, my uncles fished, family, friends, and just like somebody was always taking time out of their schedule to help. And had they not done that, we may not even be talking today. So, anytime I get that opportunity to give back or teach or pass on what I know, I take full advantage of it. That's why every Saturday that I make a cut on the Bassmaster Elites, I pick a kid out of the crowd for a Bassmaster membership. That's the exact reason why I do that. Because had somebody not done that for me growing up, like I said, you and I know we wouldn't be talking right now. So there's just always been somebody in my life that has went out of their way, and even still today, to do that. So like I said, I'm fortunate and blessed to be able to do what I do for a living. And when I get an opportunity to give back, I'm going to take full advantage of it.
How many did you give at Palatka? I know you got up there and you and your wife decided to give every kid one.
I don't know what that number ended up being. And it's so ironic because the year prior to that, I made the cut there, I think. And Yamaha stepped up and give every kid in the crowd a Bassmaster membership. So it's kind of cool to be able to do that, the second year as well. So I don't know what that number was or is, but I don't know. I get a lot of enjoyment out of doing that.
That's awesome. So that's a pretty good transition. Let's go back. Danny, are you reading the comments? I know there was a couple questions.
I want to settle one argument.
Uh-oh.
I want to settle one argument just real quick.
An argument?
Because this is my vision. 90% of the Elite Series tournaments that I watch are on the computer. Seldom do I sit and watch it on a Saturday or Sunday live or whatever. Just tell Bassmaster to make it to where if I want to watch Billy Lowen fish all day, I just click on his name and he's got a GoPro live and there we are.
How cool would that be?
It's that easy.
That would be awesome.
It should be that easy. It's 2025.
Right,
Yeah.
Right.
That's my 2 cents. If I want to watch Ben Milliken throw a swim bait offshore, then I click on his name and I can watch Ben Milliken all day or whoever, But
you got to have a live camera in their boat.
They got to have a GoPro and whatever else technology. Because
couldn't we get like a ding that says, "Hey, Bill, you got some people wanting to watch. You got to go live or whatever." Yeah,
I think was it like I can't remember the Elite Series angler, but he was trying to do it.
I don't know about that techie stuff. Do GoPros go live?
I don't know. Guys are live streaming all the time, so they're
Anyways,
doing it somehow.
That's my 2 cents.
To answer that question or put a little, we've had those. When I was at Bass, we were having those conversations. Those have been talked about, but it's a little more difficult than just.
Come on, it's easy.
Yeah. It's 2000. I'm just 36 years old here, so
right.
Now they could certainly do it for the final day, right? Where they have a camera in every boat, and they can go live to every boat. They can certainly do that. I believe there's a way to do that.
The producers are pointing and clicking on that map
on the final day.
He goes, "Oh, let's just."
All that is a location GPS. All that is a location GPS. And it's not exact either. It's not exact either. I know these guys complain about, man, they're showing them exactly where I'm at. And I've seen people on Grand Lake that says where the dot says they're here, and I'm like, that is not there.
That's not there.
That's over here.
So what you're saying is you want to watch people flip bushes and not throw at dots. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes down
let
to
us
it,
choose. Let us choose what we want to watch.
Right.
Yeah.
So Devin Pino, our scoper guru on the comments, he's going to watch all the scopers, and we're not. We're going to watch Bill Lowen flip a jig.
if one of the rookies that I'm not real for sure even who it is, I don't have anything against them. I'm just saying I don't really know who they are. If one of them's leading the tournament and that's the only footage they give you for the tournament, and you had a really good day and end up popping like a 19-pound bag and coming out of 10th and getting second place or whatever it was, and I missed it because we're favoring somebody that's throwing a Nico rig in the middle of BFE. I mean, I got screwed.
Wait, dude, I thought you were a scoper. I thought you were turning into a scoper.
I am turning into an opportunist.
Didn't you say before we started we didn't have no drama on here?
Yeah.
This is just being a realist, okay?
There's a difference between drama and being real, right?
Yeah, that's right. All right, let's answer a few questions
Circling
here. Circling back.
Terry has a great question for Bill, and I think I know how you're gonna answer this, but Terry wants to know if you'd rather win the Classic or Angler of the Year.
I would have to go with Angler of the Year. And the reason that I would say Angler of the Year is because when you win Angler of the Year, you were the most well-rounded angler, what we've been talking about tonight, all year long. You overcome every condition Mother Nature could have thrown at you. The Classic, yeah, it's the biggest tournament in bass fishing, but it's a 3-day deal. You're fishing against 50 guys. You know what I mean? You're not fishing against a full field. Granted, you're fishing against the best guys for that year, but I still feel like Angler of the Year, you fished against a full field, the best guys in the world. I feel like Angler of the Year has a lot more clout than the Bassmaster Classic. But I'm not taking anything away from the Classic because I'd sure love to win it or Angler of the Year. But I think if you ask, 100 anglers, 99 of them are going to say Angler of the Year.
Very good. That's where I thought you were going to go. Getting a little technical now, which is cool. Who was it? Dennis asked, what's your setup for swimming a jig?
My setup for swimming a jig, and this is regardless of where I go in the country, regardless of what watercolor is, it could be gin clear or chocolate milk. I like a 7'6" medium heavy action rod with a fast tip. I like an Arc Invoker tour rod. I always go with a high speed reel, but not a real high speed reel, like 7-to-1, 7.4, somewhere in that range. I like a Gravity 7 reel from Arc, and always never change 30-pound Tactex braid from Seagar. Always swim on 30-pound. I have a Signature Series swim jig from Lure Parts Online that's available in a quarter, 5/16, 3/8, and a half. My two favorite sizes are probably a quarter and a 5/16. And then, colors are always, endless options there. I always say if you had a black and blue, a green pumpkin, or something white, you could take those three colors, go anywhere in the country. The same way as trailers, you could take a daggone Zoom Z-Crawl and put it on all three of those colors, either the junior or the full size. Go anywhere in the country and swim that jig, and you're going to get a bite. But like I said, for me, day in, day out, it's always that 7'6" rod, because a lot of those swim jig bites are so fast and so violent that a lot of times those fish get you out of position. And I feel like by having that little bit longer rod, you can kind of control that fish a little better, especially having that high speed reel on there as well. And the reason I choose that 7'6" rod with that medium heavy with that fast tip, I almost compare it to like a heavy action spinnerbait rod. Okay, so a lot of guys really, really shake that rod when they're swimming a jig. They call it the Alabama shake. I do that as well too, but a lot of times, a lot of guys don't think I'm doing that is because I get the tip of that rod working. By having that little bit of softer tip, you can get that rod tip bouncing, and that shakes the jig for you a lot of times, right? The other benefits you get from that is that when that fish comes up there and eats it, that soft tip gives that jig to the fish. You have less tendency to pull that bait away from that fish. So the rod action serves two purposes. So that would be my setup for a swim jig. Like I said, anywhere I go in the country, regardless of watercolor.
Bill
Awesome.
Lowen juice right there.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Why 30-pound, and why not a little bit faster reel?
So I don't go with a faster reel because I feel like if I get up to that 8.1 gear ratio, two things happens for me. I fish the bait faster than I should because I always want to keep that swim jig, what I call floating it around that cover. For me, that's kind of my deal. I want to keep that jig around the strike zone as long as I possibly can. And I hear guys all the time say, well, if I got an 8-1, I just reel slower. But it's not the same, right? Be like you throwing a crankbait on the 5-1, saying you could do the same thing with a 6-5. You just can't do it. It can't be done. So I feel like I fish the bait too fast on a higher speed reel. And then once I get that bite, I feel like I winch on them too hard and I lose more bass because I'm just, in theory, you're horsing on them because you got a faster ratio reel. So that's why I land on that 7.1 gear ratio. And the reason I go with 30-pound braid, knock on wood, I've never been broke off on 30-pound braid. I think we actually seen at the St. Johns River. I had one tangled up in a tree and pretty much put that Tactex braid to, I'm pretty sure it was going to be to the point where it was going to break. And finally the limb broke and the fish came in. But the reason I use that 30-pound braid is I feel like I get the most action out of that jig that I possibly can. And then if I feel like if I got it on 65-pound braid, I feel like it's on a jump rope. And I know that might sound crazy, but I always compare it to, like, let's say if you had a jig on 8-pound test line or you had it on 25-pound test line, you're going to get way more bounce and way more action out of it on 8 than you are on 25, right? It's physics, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like when I got it on 30-pound, I get the most action that I can get out of that jig. And when I got it on heavy line, like 65, I just feel like it's on a jump rope. Does it give me more bites? In my mind, I think it does. Does it matter? I don't know. But all I know is that's what I've always done, and that's what I'm going to keep doing.
Good stuff.
Yeah, awesome. So what about just a regular jig? What's your like setup for that, and size and colors and favorite color?
My flipping jig setup, once again, I got a Signature Series jig at Lure Parts Online, a flipping jig, and it's available from a eighth ounce all the way up to a 5/8. So we got the whole spectrum covered there. But once again, 7'6" heavy action flipping rod. I like that Invoker limited edition from ARC. Same reel, 7.1 gear ratio, kind of for the same things we just talked about. Line for me when I'm flipping a jig is pretty much cut and dry. Typically always 22-pound Tatsu fluorocarbon from Seagar as well. And just that's kind of my nuts and bolts for pitching a jig around. Typically I'm going to start out in that 3/8 or half-ounce range. Typically those two sizes can get you through about any situation that you're faced with. So I feel like that 22-pound is the best overall, whether you're flipping bushes, laydowns, docks, whatever that may be. and yeah, pitch the jig where other people don't, and when they bite it, crack them and winch them to the boat.
Your favorite colors and like different trailers.
So I'm pretty simple when it comes to my jig. Um, Black and blue, green pumpkin, something white shad color. I know a lot of guys don't flip a white jig anymore. It's kind of one of my deals. Um, I got a whole signature series line of skirts at Lure Parts online as well that are the exact skirts that I use day in and day out. I'm a big fan of some tinsel in my skirts for a little bit of flash, just something different. So a lot of my skirt colors have a little bit of tinsel in them. Um, Pretty much day in and day out, a Zoom Super Chunk will get you through any situation that you're faced with, whether that be a Super Chunk Junior or a regular Super Chunk. Um, Depending on if we're around a shad spawn or brims beds or something like that, I may go with that Z Crawl Junior or the full size Z Crawl just to give me some kind of flappy kicking action. I'm a really big fan when I'm fishing grass of either a twin tail or a single tail Fat Albert grub. That's always kind of been a staple up north, Mississippi River and places like that. Um, but pretty much day in and day out, those three trailers could get you through any situation. But I find myself more and more always reaching for that super chunk profile. Whether you thread it on the hook to give you that compact look, or you pin it like an old traditional style piece of pork to give you that bigger profile, or maybe a slower fall. I just feel like that super chunk profile gives you really good opportunity, one, to get a lot of bites, and two, to get better than average bites. So that would kind of be my choices. Like I said, and color wise, colors are like, I always laugh and joke that I say colors are to catch fishermen, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you do, like I said, if you took black and blue, green pumpkin, and something white in anything you fish with, whether it be soft
Mm-hmm.
plastics, crankbait, jig,
Mm-hmm.
buzzbait, doesn't matter. You can take those three colors and go anywhere in the country and catch largemouth, smallmouth, spots. Doesn't matter. I think a lot of times as fishermen, we get so confused and so wrapped up in colors when we could just keep it simple and make our life a lot easier.
What about the scent? Do you use scent?
So back in the day, I used to be like anal about scent and garlic, and nowadays anymore, I, I'm a big fan of the Zoom stuff because it's always had salt in it. I think salt is pretty much all you need. And I know there's always the craze of Berkeley Max scent or this whatever, and garlics and crawfish. And so with that being said, I'm going to say this. If you feel like that's what you got to have to get a bite because you got confidence on it, then put whatever the heck you want to put on it. You know what I mean? If it's WD-40 or Robitussin cough syrup, it doesn't matter. Like, if you got confidence in it and you think you're going to get a bite, then by all means do it. Because look, at the end of the day, fishing's all about having confidence in what you're doing. And if you don't have any confidence in it, you probably ain't going to catch nothing. So if you feel like that makes a difference, then by all means do it. For me, I've played with scent. I've fished without it. I feel like I get just as many bites with scent as I do without. I just feel like the big deal there is use a soft plastic that definitely has salt in it. I mean, nowadays most soft plastics do have salt in them, so I think salt's a big deal. But like I said, we could get so wrapped up in scents, crawfish, garlic, grape, coffee, whatever, that I'm just like, I'm that simple guy. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Let's keep it as simple as possible and let's go fishing.
Can you talk about the differences between the Seagar fluorocarbons? I mean, I've used Seagar for I don't know how long, pretty much exclusively for fluorocarbon. And I'll be honest with you, I use Red Label. Like, I change line quite a bit too.
So So I
But
know a ton of guys that use the Red Label. And look, it's a great line. Red Label, and like you said, you change it a lot because it has a lot of memory to it, right? It
yeah,
gets coily. And that's where, when you start getting into the higher ends of your fluorocarbon, you lose that memory. Okay. Um, my like go-to workhorse line is Invisex, which is Yellow Label, right?
mhm,
That is my like what I call my workhorse line. That's what I use for cranking, throwing a spinner bait, sometimes throwing a buzz bait. You know, a lot of times I throw a buzz bait on braid, but for me, Invisex is my workhorse line. I'm going to use it for everything but flipping. Okay. Uh, Invisex is right at that spot where you still got a little bit of memory, but not a tremendous amount. Definitely going to be less than Red Label, right? And then when you go up to Tatsu, which is a double structured fluorocarbon, which is a softer material, it's more uh, it's more limp. It has less memory, and with it being double structured, it's extremely strong for its diameter. So the only thing that I use Tatsu for is for my flipping and pitching. I'm a big line watcher, so I want my line to be as limp as possible. You know what I mean? I don't want it to have a lot of memory in it, don't want it to have a lot of coils in it. So Tatsu to me has very minimal memory. It's a very sensitive line and it's very strong. Um, and with that being said, that's why I use it for flipping, right? Um, it's an expensive line. It's probably one of the most expensive fluorocarbons in the Cigar line, but it's worth it. But like I said, day in, day out, for my workhorse stuff, I always go with the Invisex. Um, and those are pretty much the two lines that I'm going to use when it comes to fluorocarbon. Invisex for my workhorse stuff, 20 pound for spinner baits, buzz baits, 15 to 17, depending on, chatter baits, square bills, things like that, depending on kind of what I'm doing. Shallow cranking, small crankbaits, flat side balsa baits, things like that. I'm going to go with 12 pound. So for me, 12, 15, 17, 20, and then Vizex, 20 or 22 pound Tatsu for my flipping and pitching, on Tatsu for that. But those would be my two choices. And once again, man, the fluorocarbon deal can get so confusing.
it
You know what I
is.
mean? And the like you talked about that Red Label, man, it hits that price point that a lot of guys really like. You know what I mean? And I know, like I said, I know a ton of guys that use the Red Label. It's very strong, but like you said, it has a little more memory than
Yep.
Invisex or Tatsu. And I think you gotta settle where what works for you. And look, what works for me may not work for you. You know what I mean? And vice versa. So you just got to get things and play with them and see what you like and kind of go from there.
I've got my backing on my flipping reel set to where I can pretty much fill 3 spools with one of the small spools of Red Label. So
Absolutely.
I change it out if I'm just playing around, whatever, but every tournament I change them all out.
Yeah, and I think I'm kind of glad you brought that up because I think a lot of guys don't think about putting backing on their reels to help you save line. You know what I mean? Especially if you're spooling, flipping, and pitching rods, right? Look, let's face it, you could do about all your flipping and pitching work with about 40 yards of fresh line on your rod. And what I do on mine is I put enough backing on there where if I stand or if I'm on the front of the boat and I make what I call a long underhand roll cast, right? As long as I can cast that, not an overhand, like throw it as hard as you can, but a long underhand roll cast. That's about how much line I put on my flipping rods. You know what I mean? And that's probably going to be somewhere in that 40 to 60 yard range.
Yeah.
But I mean, that when you're flipping and pitching, I mean, you can make a spool line last forever by doing that. You know what I mean?
So,
If you put 100 yards of line on a reel, in my mind, especially on a flipping reel, you're wasting 40, 50 yards of line that you're never going to use.
yeah.
So why not put enough backing on there so you can make that spool line last as long as possible?
And I back.
How did how do you, for maybe somebody that's watching that doesn't really know, how do you know how much backing to put in? Like, do you put out 40 yards of line and mark your
Yes.
spool or something? And
So typically what I'll do is put on some kind of cheap line or maybe some old line to use as backing. And then I'll fill the spool up, right? And then, throw it out in the yard, have somebody walk it out there, and then just cut it off, right? And then when that backing's there and you tie your new line onto it, you always got a knot there when you get it, start coming through your guides. Okay, that's where we got to, put the new line on. And you don't have to tie any crazy fancy knot. I just tie an overhand knot and, just make sure when you wind it on there that you get your little tag ends down in the spool. But pretty simple to do it that way. Cast it out there, walk it out there, know how far or how much line you need, cut it off, tie your new one on, and you can leave that backing on there forever. You know what I mean? For the life of the reel,
Yep.
So.
I got some really, really old braid on mine.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
You tie on an overhand knot, Kyle, or you use a double uni Alberto, whatever it is.
Just from backing to spool fluorocarbon, it is legitimately just a real quick surgeon's knot. From like a mainline braid to fluorocarbon, I suck at it, but I've tried the gizmo knot, whatever you want to call it. I've just stuck with Alberto because that's about all I can tie, and I trust it.
Yeah, that's a really good knot. That's the one I use.
Yeah. All right. Well, very good. What is out of the? I mean, you're in the Angler of the Year running. I mean, I think you're you're seventh, but I mean, on points wise, I think you're what?
Less than 100.
60, less than 100 points.
Yes.
I mean, stranger things have happened. What are you looking forward to the rest of the season?
I've always been that guy that doesn't kind of try to look at each event like, oh, I'm looking forward to this one. I think a lot of times if I do that and I'm like, I show up with this preconceived notion that I'm going to do good here, or this is what I'm going to do, then I normally don't do very well at all. So I've always been that guy that just kind of shows up, fishes the conditions, and just I don't try to think about it leading up to it too much. I tend to do better when I do that. Because if I show up with a game plan or this is what I'm going to do, then I normally fall on my face. But with that being said, we're getting ready to go to 10 Killer. They've been getting a tremendous amount of rain out there. The lakes are high. I've been watching them. They've been falling. I think they're pulling them down because we got a big round of storms coming next week that probably going to fill them back up. So it's going to be a mud puddle over there, but that's what I grew up fishing, high, flooded, nasty stuff. So I don't want to say I'm not worried about that one, but I mean, I'm kind of excited that we're fishing the conditions that we are. You know what I mean? We're going to go to St. Clair after that. And St. Clair, end of July, 1st of August. And this year's been so crazy. It's been cool. It's hard telling what's going to be going on there. Probably going to have to get my forward-facing sonar out and dabble around with that a little bit. So that ought to be a fun one. I always hate that when we're going to events where that you got to catch 20 pounds to have a chance to maybe even cash a check. And I think that's what you'll have to do at St. Clair. And then La Crosse, Wisconsin, who anybody that's ever been there knows that that's one of the most amazing places to fish in the world. I love going there. But once again, that's going to be an event where you're going to have that 14, 15 pounds a day to even have a chance at getting a check, Yeah, I'm at seventh in Angler of the Year. I don't know what that number was you threw out there, 100 points or something. And Jay, that's leading Angler of the Year right now. He's going to be a hard one to run down. You know what I mean? He's a very well-rounded angler. When we talk about well-rounded anglers being very efficient with forward-facing sonar, but he grew up on that Mississippi River type stuff where he knows how to fish shallow. You know what I mean? So he is going to be extremely hard to beat when we go to St. Clair and we go to La Crosse, Wisconsin. Um, so it's with that being said, I typically don't pay any attention to the angler of the year ever. All I care about is making the classic, and that's what we're going to focus on. We're going to just grind it, keep our head down. We're going to do everything we can just to cash a check in these next 3 events. That way we can give away some more Bassmaster memberships. But my main goal this year is just to get back on track and qualify for that classic. So if we move up in Angler of the Year, and then so be it. But if not, all I care about is making the classic.
I think you're well on your way to making it back to the classic.
Well, we hope so. I've missed both of the ones in Knoxville, and I don't want to miss this one.
Yeah. You'll
Bill,
have to go
what's
out. You'll have to go out scoping with Gusty.
Right.
No, you won't, because I don't know if he's going to make it.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't, like I said, I haven't really paid attention to it. Haven't looked at it. Try not to look into it too much.
Can I change the subject?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
I want to know. I want to know a couple things. So you said you've been off on the road since February, pretty much. All right. So, and I know you like to duck hunt. So I want to know shotgun, what kind, and what's your overall favorite, and how many you got in the safe. I want to know what brand of duck call you blow, and I want to know if you practice blowing that duck call the closer to duck season gets. Like when you're on the road driving in the truck, do you drive your wife nuts blowing it, practicing? Let's hear it.
So, like
And mojo or not a mojo.
All right. So my true passion is waterfowl hunting, right? My dad got me into waterfowl hunting when I was, 7, 8 years old. Um, so that's been 40 something years ago. And I have like truly fallen in love with it. And when I can remember my first hunts, like it was over hand carved cork decoys that my dad's buddies would get the cork out of old refrigerators and carve them down. So that was kind of my first experience of duck hunting over that stuff. So that's kind of like, we joked about I like to collect decoys. And still to this day, like some of the funnest hunts we have are over cork decoys. Still use them to this day.
Wow.
So to get back to what you asked, I got a whole family here that loves to hunt. I got a 13-year-old son that's ate up with waterfowl hunting. I got a 16-year-old daughter. She loves the waterfowl hunt. My wife loves the waterfowl hunt. So it's like, it's just our life. It's our lifestyle, whether it's deer hunting, duck hunting, whatever. So when you ask me how many guns are in the safe, there's a whole bunch of them. The wife and the kids, like they've kind of settled on shooting a Rete, Mosamari Rete. We all shoot 20 gauges. I got a Benelli. I believe it's a SB3 that I shoot. Every one of us shoot 20 gauges. We shoot Boss shot shells. I'm a big fan of the Boss stuff, just quick, clean kills. You know what I mean?
3-inch twos, or what are
Yeah,
they?
so I like 3-inch, 3.5 mixes is what I like. I like that War Chief load. A lot of people don't know this, but that War Chief load from Boss has a biodegradable shot cup in it, or a shot wad. So pretty much, we all shoot non-toxic shot, but that plastic wad goes out there, and they've made a biodegradable one. So over time, it's going to biodegrade back. So I'm kind of a big fan of that. Duck calls, I'm a big fan of R&T Mondo. We got some stuff from the guys over at Higdon that we use some, the power calls. I'm an old school river hunter, you know what I mean? Kind of do things a little different, kind of maybe like I do in my fishing. A lot of guys run, 3, 4, 5 dozen decoys in their rig. When I'm running the river, if I put out 12, that's a lot. Typically, I'll hunt over 6. Always try to do something a little bit different. Not a big fan of a mojo because everybody has one in their spread. Um, to me, it's more about being where the birds want to be and being hidden, right? We got a 20-foot express duck boat that we run with a 115 Yamaha SHO on it, fully enclosed, blind, basically looks like a beaver hut going down the river. You know what I mean? It's a custom blind that we built. We actually took a 16-foot John boat and cut it in half to make the sides and built our own flip tops. And we spent a lot of time in there, and we want to be comfortable. But we chase ducks from right here where I live in Indiana. I'm kind of right in the corner of Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky on the Ohio River, where I grew up, learned how to fish, learned how to duck hunt, have passed that on to my kids. They've all killed their first ducks right there on the Ohio River. But we also chase them to Arkansas and North Dakota and wherever. Like I said, that's my true passion. I always joke and tell everybody I fish all summer so I can hunt all winter. But the best thing I think that what draws people to waterfowl hunting is the camaraderie and the time that you can spend in a duck blind. It's not like sitting in a deer blind or a deer stand where you got to be quiet. You got to worry about scent. You can cut up with your buddies. Your kids can have fun, and then, oh, hey, quiet down. Here comes some birds. So I think that interaction, and once people see that or see what you're kind of trying to achieve when you're out there in the duck blind, it's just something you have to see to understand what I'm talking about. And with duck hunting, you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. And, quick kind of just give you a little background on me. When I grew up duck hunting, we were on a point system. We could shoot lead. And what I mean by the point system, if you shot a hen mallard, she was 100 points, and you were done for the day. A greenhead mallard was 35 points. So you do the math, how many greenhead mallards you could shoot. Back at that time, a bluebill was only like worth 10 points. So you could shoot 10 bluebills if you wanted. So I grew up in that era, but I also grew up where my father didn't have a lot of money. And, let's face it, waterfowl hunting is an expensive sport, whether it was 40 years ago or now. And he did everything he could do to get us out there, from boats to decoys to shotgun shells. And I can remember, like, we got one box of shotgun shells and we had to make it last, right? So I grew up where if those ducks didn't light and put their feet in the water, we didn't shoot them because we wanted them. We wanted a box of shells to last as long as we could. And I have kind of carried that over into my hunting. And I get guys that hunt with me that, like, we'll get mallards working us, tree topping us, whatever. And a lot of guys would be shooting at those ducks, right? And I won't make the call. And guys that traditionally don't hunt with us will be like, man, why didn't we shoot those birds? We should have shot them. And we'll finally get a group of birds to do what we want them to do, where we get them to finish. And we won't let them land in the water, but we'll shoot them when they're in the hole, feet down.
You have to commit it.
And once you've done that, you've done your job, or you've completely tricked that bird, right? And to me, that's what it's all about. And I'm to the point where if I never shot another duck the rest of my life, it would not bother me one bit. But to trick those birds, put them in the hole, and let other people experience that, that's what it's all about. And, like I brought that up about the guys that typically don't hunt with us, because once they see that and they see them birds finish in the hole and then we call the shot, my 13-year-old son will be like, that's how we do it, right? And they're like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen, right? It's easy to go out there and shoot ducks at treetop and knock them down. But when you completely fool them and put them in the hole, and you get to see them backpedaling, that's all I need. Like I said, I don't need to ever make another shot the rest of my life. But to see people experience that have never got to experience it, to me, that's what it's all about.
Cool. Very cool.
That is cool. I've never been duck hunting.
Well, if you haven't been yet, you don't want to start now.
Probably true. Probably
Yes.
true statement.
It's the most addicting thing. Well, like I said, you either love it or you hate it. And typically the guys that hate it go out there and freeze to death and don't get to experience what we just talked about. But if you ever get to go out there and see the sunrise, you see the birds wake up in the morning, and do what they're supposed to do. It's one of the most amazing things that, to me, that you could ever see.
Right now, the way my fishing is, I'm thinking I might want to take it up.
Well, we still got a few more months, so you ought to keep fishing for a little while.
John, you've probably caught bass off of one of the duck blinds that I helped build up in the north end. You just didn't know it.
Probably.
Oklahoma Cove, about halfway back.
Mm-hmm.
It was.
Hey, look, I'd love to come to Oklahoma and do some duck hunting.
Well, this is actually in Kansas, but it's
I come to Kansas too. I come to Kansas too.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Well, Danny, it's been a while since we actually asked the questions. Like, we didn't even ask him if last week.
Oh, I know.
Even though we've already asked him once, but we got a new guest. We need to ask the questions.
Oh boy,
Bill, I warned you, we're no drama.
yeah, I think you all are lying.
These are the heavy hitting questions. These are the career changing questions.
I think you're breaking up on me. I gotta go.
So, from what I understand, you travel mostly with your family. Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. We live on the road in a camper. The kids have been homeschooled. They've been on the road ever since they were born, so they don't know any different.
Oh, that's really cool. Well, so you're going from one event to the other. You're going down the interstate, and then you see that billboard, and you're like, "Oh man, we got to take this next exit." Where are you going? Where's somewhere you have to stop at?
You know what? We really don't have one of those spots. Our whole deal is if we try to stop, we stop and get off and get back on the road as quick as we can. So we really don't have a like, hey, we got to stop there. Kind of just always been like that. We might have thought it was Buc-ee's for a while, but it's too crazy in there. So we just keep rolling.
Well, it's kind of funny that you said Buc-ee's because we ask this question of every new guest, and probably what, guys, 8 out of 10 say Buc-ee's.
Right.
Yeah.
So
that's like a flea market with food,
Yeah, pretty much. Before you ask the next question, maybe a variation of that question. So you, out of all the places you've been, is there like a campground or one particular campground or something that you all stay at that you can't wait to get back to?
Some campgrounds like you can't wait to leave, and others like you don't want to leave, right? Mm-hmm. I think our favorite campgrounds are like probably the ones when we go on that New York swing, like to the St. Lawrence River and places like that. I don't know. The weather's always great. The fishing's always phenomenal.
Ice cream shop on every corner.
Absolutely. We always stay at one up there and Lisbon Beach, just right outside of Waddington. And it's just a cool place, Mm-hmm. We really enjoyed Leech Lake last year when we were up there for the Open. That was a cool place. We hung out there between Leech Lake and the lacrosse tournament and just hung out up there. So, I mean, to like pick one and say like this is our favorite, like I don't know. I mean, to me, it's all special and good because the family's with me, and it'd be really hard for me to do this with them not being with me. You know what I mean? I'd hate to be getting that phone call from them saying, "Hey, Dad, when you gonna be home?" You know what I mean? So, um, just enjoy every minute of it. You know what I mean? And um, some campgrounds are better than others, but for the most part, day in and day out, it's all good. You know.
Yep. All right, Danny. Now you can ask the next question.
Oh, we had that new one that was suggested. We're gonna break that one out. This Bill's gonna be the first experiment.
Okay.
So I'm assuming then you're staying in the camper, so you're doing a lot of cooking. You guys grill and stuff in the evenings. Do you have a night before the tournament traditional meal?
No, not at all. Look, I learned a long time ago that like you typically don't question meals. Like you show up, that's what's made, and that's what you eat, right?
There you go. Yep.
Like I said, I'm very fortunate that they get to travel on the road with me.
Sure.
We did the hotel thing, rented houses back in the day, and it was always a mess. So we got the RV. I drive the RV. Jennifer drives the truck and boat. But to be able to come in off the water, dinner's ready, whatever. I don't have to worry about getting in the truck and going somewhere. The kids and her make it so easy to be able to focus on what I need to focus on, and that's fishing. Um, but to come home every night or, back to the camper, and dinner's ready, they're there. I mean, you can't, put a price on that. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. It's like you're sleeping in your own bed every night.
Absolutely. But
Yep.
as far as like meal wise, we don't have any superstitions. We don't have any special meals. Like, just let's eat and go to bed. You know.
Awesome. Okay, now I got to circle back to an old favorite question. And I know, you've already expressed your love of scoping.
I'm a little worried about this question, actually.
I mean,
Oh,
look, I don't
Guys.
love it and I don't hate it.
no,
I'm
I'm
just
just
kind
teasing.
of,
I'm
I'm
just
I'm
teasing.
kind of in the middle there.
I'm just teasing.
I'm a
It's a
little worried about
love-hate
this.
relationship. How's that?
That's good.
This question is, I'm a little worried because of where he's from. The Ohio River. Proceed.
Proceed. Bill, what's the craziest thing you've seen on screen? I mean, either something that, that shouldn't be there, or you couldn't figure out what it was, just something crazy on screen.
I mean, look, let's face it, you get to see a lot of things when you're idling around looking at those screens, whether it be SIDI, 360, live, whatever that may be. I mean, I've seen cars and just things you kind of don't know what they are, don't want to even imagine what they are. Um, but I mean, if I had to think of like one of the craziest things I ever seen, and I believe this was on Oneida. No, not Oneida. Cayuga, Lake Cayuga. They have a power plant kind of deal there. I'm not quite sure what it is, but out in front of it, there's like a um, water intake or some type of deal. But when you look at it on side imaging or 360 or whatever, it almost looks like I don't know, big columns and spaceshipy type stuff. It's really cool, but it's really weird. You know what I mean? And I can remember putting a post up or a picture of that off of my Hummingbird, off of my side imaging, and somebody sent me a message back, and it was a picture of the deal with divers in it and things like that, when they were building it or whatever it was. But that's kind of the one that stands out to me, just because it was like, what the heck is that? You know what I mean? But I mean, like, I've seen underwater bridges and roads, and there's actually one at down by the express plant in Hot Springs, Arkansas, on Lake Catherine, I believe it is. It's like an old railroad trestle bridge. It was like, you can see all the beams and everything on it still, full standing railroad bridge. So I
Oh,
mean,
sweet.
like, we see, like I said, we see so many things when we're looking around, but that's kind of the one that jumps out the most to me. I mean, we see a lot of things that look like a lot of things. So I don't know. John said, I'm scared for him to answer this because of where he grew up on the Ohio River. But typically when I'm out there, I don't turn it on. So,
Hmm. Awesome. Very cool.
Big
I was
Rick
just-
got one of those bridges.
I was just worried about because even though we asked the question on screen, some folks had told us like 2 weeks in a row, I think, we were told that they saw a body, but it wasn't really on the screen. It was just in the water.
right.
So, and speaking of that, I was on Big Hill this weekend, and I thought I was running around and I saw something in the water, and I went by it once, and I thought it was like a duck. Somebody had hit a duck floating, and I went by it, and I'm like, that's not a duck. I don't know what that is. And I went a little bit further, and I'm like, and then my conscience is like, gosh, I need to see what that is, So I went back, and as I got closer, it was a sweatshirt. It was a sweatshirt, and the arms were out like this,
No.
and the hood was up, and there was like air in the middle part of it, so it was like floating. And I'm like, please not be anything in this sweatshirt. And there wasn't. It was just a sweatshirt, but man.
Was it a good sweatshirt, and did you keep it?
It was a Rockstar energy drink sweatshirt. And it's in the boat. It's in the bottom of the boat right now.
Nice.
But yeah, that was kind of spooky. Well, that's crazy. What else you got? Anything else, Danny?
So when you're done competitive fishing, are we going to see the Lowen family outfitters?
I don't know what the plan is for that. We get asked that a lot. I'm just turned 50 in December. Like I said,
Youngest.
fishing 20 years full time. I mean, at this point, I'm in so deep. I mean, we might be pulling a Rick Clunn kind of deal, I think I
Nice.
would
be
really
awesome.
enjoy maybe doing some kind of outfitting type deal. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't know what's in the cards right now. You know what I mean? My son's getting into fishing, loving it, wanting to start tournament fishing. So I know he's going to kind of drag me down that path, which I'm good with that. So yeah, I don't know what our plans are. I know right now we're just like traveling gypsies in a camper, dragging the express all over the world, trying to catch little green fish,
It's super cool to have that whole family and the whole support. And I can't believe the kids are as big as they are.
Yeah, I
Like
mean, you would probably remember them when they weren't even before they were even born. You know what I mean? Little babies.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely. I do have one question that I've always wondered. Has Jennifer ever strained her voice at a weigh-in?
Oh, absolutely.
Like,
Yep.
I don't know if you two know this, but next time you watch the weigh-in and you see Bill weighing his fish, and now I think your daughter is doing it too, right?
Yeah, pretty
Like,
much.
like they yell for him louder than anybody I've ever heard in my life, and she's been doing it for years, like every weigh-in,
Yeah,
every time he weighs in.
as long as
So
I can remember, they've actually nicknamed him Team Scream.
it's a deal. It's
Yeah.
a
Okay.
deal.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, look, to have a support crew, or you got to have it when you're out there on the road. And something that Jennifer does every morning that I don't think she's ever been like said never been brought to attention. Um, she runs her phone on live every morning for everybody that goes out um, to take off in the morning, right? And
Hmm.
she'll literally tell everybody good luck in the morning. You know what I mean? Um,
Hmm.
and there's been so many of the anglers that have come up to her and said, "Hey, I really appreciate you telling me good luck, have a good day, or whatever that may be." Because a lot of them aren't fortunate enough to have their families with them. You know what I mean? And look, it's
Right.
lonely
Yeah.
out there. I could
Hmm.
only imagine being away from your family for 6 or 7 months. You know what I mean? So I think it's really cool that she does that every morning. That's just kind of her thing. You know what I mean? And that's the reason, like she tells me that's why she does it, because they don't have family there to tell them that. Um, and I don't think
That
that's
is,
ever been talked about or brought up or whatever. But
I tune
um,
into it every Elite Series.
yeah, so she does that, and to me, that's amazing that just she, I mean, kind of
yeah,
takes that as her deal,
very cool.
and makes it. You know, what I mean, she's kind of like, I mean, not that she's old or anything, but she's kind of one of the old timers out there, just like I am. You know what I mean?
She's a
Um,
veteran. She's a
yeah, she is
veteran.
a veteran. You know what I mean? So she's kind of like kind of taking that role, you know what I mean, which I think
Hmm.
is cool as hell. But yeah, it takes a team, and dude, I got an awesome one without a doubt.
Yep. Yep. You do. You do. You want to ask that last question from Brad? Brad asked a question.
One more that you have to think about,
Yeah.
and then we're
I,
done. And
I
then
wouldn't
we'll let
bring
you.
it up. I wouldn't bring it up, but it's kind of an interesting question.
It is interesting. Is there a lake that you still fish? I don't know, maybe on the tour. Um, the Trying to figure out exactly what he's asking. A lake that you fish today and how different it is than it was 25 years ago.
Hmm.
Has it changed? Has it changed a lot?
That is so hard to answer. Okay. Um, to me, they've all changed a lot.
Mhm.
Um, and what I mean by that is they've changed a lot because of technology. Okay. Not necessarily water conditions, fish, blah blah. Not none of that. To me, all the bodies of water that we've been to over the years and years and years, to me, have changed so much because of technology or forward-facing sonar. Okay, and what I mean by that is the fish that are in the lake have always been in the lake, right? We've just tapped into somewhere that I don't think we were supposed to tap into, right?
Mhm.
Um, we have tapped into me what I'm calling the waterfowl resting area, right? Um, we were tapped into where the fish have always went to um, recoup, survive, whatever that may be, um, and we've unlocked that mystery. So to me, bodies of water have changed in that aspect. You know, I mean, look, let's just use Lake Gunnersville, for example. Gunnersville's always been a tremendous body of water. It's always kicked out big bags. But now with forward-facing sonar technology, look at the bags we get that we're dragging in off of the main river channel. Like, you know what I mean? Fish that we never would have caught before. So to me, that's the biggest change I see on the bodies of water that we're competing on, whether that be Gunnersville, Lake St. Clair, Lake Erie, wherever. And Jason Christie made a comment one time that I thought was really cool, and I don't remember what lake he was on in Oklahoma. It was 10 Killer or one of them ones around him, whatever that lake was, but he was fishing with a buddy, and they were scoping, and they were like really catching them. And his buddy said, "Man, can you believe the lake has gotten this good?" And Jason said to his buddy, "Hey, look, the lake isn't any better than it's ever been. We just have the ability to catch what we've never been able to catch before." So I thought that was kind of like, oh, hey, look, that was an eye opener. You know what I mean? And I could use the lake here at my house that I live. No, I don't live on it, but it's Brookville Lake. I can be from my house to the dam in about 6 minutes if I don't stop for gas, right? Typically, if you were to go out there on a Wednesday night, a Saturday tournament, whatever that may be, if you caught 12 to 14 pounds, you were going to win. Like, no doubt about it. 10 pounds, you were probably going to get a check. Now, with forward-facing sonar, if you don't hit that 14 to 17-pound mark, you don't stand a chance anymore, right? Same fish have probably been in the lake forever. We're catching a lot of smallmouth out there that are spawning in 12 foot of water that we're catching off of, perspective mode or forward-facing sonar that we never would have been able to catch that fish before. So I think, to me, the biggest change I've seen is the technology has changed the dynamics of the lake, what we're bringing to the scales now. So to me, that's been the most obvious change that I've seen on the bodies of water that we go to.
Very interesting. I was kind of thinking maybe some of the lakes had gotten better. Like before forward facing came in, I felt like some of the lakes were actually getting better. Like not because of, maybe just because of things we've learned through conservation or, not all lakes, certainly. I think there are some lakes that are like Grand Lake right now. If you're not catching 25 pounds, you're not probably winning the tournament almost all year. I mean, it's starting to slow down a little bit because of the heat of the summer, but that didn't happen a few years ago. So I think forward facing is a big part of that. But there's some lakes I think that do go through ups and downs, maybe. I think Big Hill's in a down. I don't know.
I think all bodies of water go through what we call cycles or whatever that may be, depending on, floods of the year, whatever that may be, grass, lack of grass, whatever. But I think every body of water goes through ups and downs, regardless of where you're at in the country. You know what I mean? I just think that we see, we've unlocked that potential to see what every single lake has the ability to kick out now, because they can't hide. They cannot hide from us anymore. Like,
that's true.
They can't hide.
That is true.
Be like hunting the biggest whitetail in the woods. He can't hide from us anymore.
Right. Well, Bill, we've had you on almost 2 hours.
Yeah, 5 minutes shy of 2 hours, but it's all good. Y'all need to pat yourself on the back or a big round of applause for like having no drama. It was awesome. We were close. We were close.
Y'all were rocking
the boat, but
we get close every once in a while, but we try to steer clear, man. It's just we don't need that. We're just fishing, man.
Well, you know what? At the end of the day, we're all in this for the same reason. We all love it for the same reason. And we got way too much negativity, not only in fishing, but just in the world in
No, the
general.
world.
Like,
That's right.
we don't need, I mean, like, look, I always say this, like, if everybody would just treat each other the way they want to be treated, then the world would be a hell of a better place, you know?
The golden rule:
That's right. Absolutely.
do unto others.
That's right.
Bill, I appreciate what you've done and what you're doing, man. And thank you for coming on. And it was great talking with you this evening.
Absolutely. I can't thank you all enough, and I appreciate it. And if you ever want to do it again, give me a holler.
We make all the guests promise to come on after, when they win again. So for sure, when you win again, we'll have you on, and if not, before.
All right. I'll see you next week.
Boom. And Bill, I should add that last week's guest was Pat Schlopper,
Very nice.
and the guest before him was Tucker Smith. So
I'll see you next week.
we'll see you next week.
Very good.
Boom.
Good, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it.
All right, guys. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck, Bill.
All right,
Good
guys.
luck
Thanks.
the rest of the year.
Amen.
That was awesome.
Dollar Bill doing things the right way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. I knew he'd be a good one.
You know, I meant to tell him while he was still here, but he actually brought it up. This morning, we're stumbling around getting our coffee and whatnot, and Wendy says, "Oh, who's your guest tonight?" And I said, "Bill Lowen." And she kind of, "Oh, he's the one that buys the kids memberships." I said, "Yeah."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Just little things add up. Little things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I told you the story about the elite series or the volunteer stuff. I mean, put yourself in my shoes. I'm going there on a Wednesday night before the tournament starts, asking guys to sign up for something that they're going to have to do when they don't make the cut.
Yeah.
I think I gotta change the format of that or something.
And they're all thinking, well, I'm not going to have to do that. I'm going to make the cut.
Right. Exactly. You could, and some would, you could tell the guys that were confident. Like, I was serious when I said Kevin Van Dam. Kevin would say, put me down, put me down. He knew he wasn't going to be there.
That's a good problem.
Go up to Kentucky Lake. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, that's fine.
But there was guys, like Bill, that I could write down before I asked him that he would say, yeah, put me on the list. And that I knew when Saturday rolled around, if he was on my list, he would be there. Like, there's guys, that's why I had to make a list of 25 anglers, because out of those 25, even if all 25 didn't make the cut, I would be lucky to get 10 of them to actually show up. Understandable.
Sure.
They just fished 2 days and they're pissed off and they don't want to, they don't want to do that. But there was guys like Bill, there were several guys that I could count on, but I knew I could count on Bill every time. Every time.
So can his
He
bank
made-
account.
Huh?
I said, so can his bank account.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
He's a check cashing fool this year. Hadn't been below the 50 cut.
Yeah.
That has not been below the 50 cut. Like,
Yeah.
Mr. Consistent. Now, the guys that are ahead of him in AOY, when you start getting in like that third and fourth place in AOY, I get the Johnson brothers confused, but I think it's Chris Johnson. I don't think he's been below a 30 cut. Like, it's real tough. And that's why the points difference is so different. But, yeah, it was cool. And it's pouring rain here, so if you guys want to talk for a little while longer, let's have at it.
You could have came and picked us up in the boat earlier and then drove the boat all the way home.
Yeah, no doubt.
What the heck?
I might actually start putting new hooks on crankbaits if I get too bored, but hey, we're all good.
So, totally spaced off mentioning the KBN Youth and High School Championship last weekend at Mozingo.
And they caught him.
They caught him. Fell off a little bit on day 2 on Saturday, but still a lot of fish caught. Exciting.
Do you know how any of them caught him? Like, did you?
A lot of I don't know if they were all, they're all fishermen, whether they're
Well, what they lie and tell us?
They a lot of them when they were on live, they do live weigh-in, and Melissa Herman does a pretty good job of momming those kids into talking.
Yeah, I noticed that.
They caught a lot of fish on frogs.
Cool.
Oh my.
A lot of topwater fish. So
I didn't know. I thought when I talked to our old buddy Jesse that he had said it had grass in it, but if I remembered that, but that's cool.
And let's see what's coming up this weekend is the
Triple B.
band. Yeah.
The
Time
Triple B.
Time for Alex Torkelson to defend his crown.
I thought you were going to.
Hopefully he doesn't.
I thought you were going to take that a little bit different angle. And no offense to Alex, but he's already won his 100,000.
Yeah. Somebody else in this screen needs to win that.
I'm not going to brag or anything about it, but there will be a sign.
What, you going to
Yeah.
buy a rain suit or what?
I've got a list.
He might need one this weekend if he doesn't already have one.
I have a list.
Are you fishing?
Secretly, yes, I am.
Where are you starting so we don't go to the same spot?
Sailboat Bridge piling number 2
Okay, I ain't going there.
with a 6-inch mag draft.
Ooh.
That's where Carl Talley fished all day last Wednesday. He was on it when I went by him.
There's somebody on it every time we go by underneath there,
He caught 10 pounds.
It might be July, and they're throwing.
He caught 10 pounds. I'm not going there.
What is that thing?
Not a mag draft.
No,
That's a
just a little swim bait. I'm always fiddling with something.
So sometimes when we have the tour guys, we do get a little distracted with what they're saying. And especially when they start talking and they start giving up the juice a little bit, We don't want to break their concentration of giving us the juice. So we don't comment on the comments as much. But Brandon, did you seriously blow your motor?
Apparently, he's mentioned it several times.
Yeah. That sucks, man.
Dang it.
I did not see him at the weigh-in.
Well, he blew his motor.
Yeah, I wondered about that. Wow. He was just trying to sell me that boat, too. Glad I didn't offer him anything for it.
Jeez. And the first awkward silence.
You're welcome.
You know, before we started tonight, before I came on and got in the studio, I was kind of laughing to myself and telling Wendy, I said, well, what a difference a year makes. Because a year ago at this time, I would I would have spent from 6 to 7 just making myself sick, nervous that I was going to screw it up, that I was going to lock us out, all kind, you know. And you do it every week. It's just become routine almost.
Mm.
And now that Crank's here and I see his demo scene on the screen that you guys can't see, I now understand why I couldn't change the frames before we went live. Where you were asking, John was asking me to put him on a different part, and yeah, the things you learn.
Mm. It was good.
It'll
I ended up.
okay, Danny.
Oh,
It'll all
my.
be okay.
You know, this dude, I mean, I like this dude, but he looks a little Chris Christopherson to me.
Yeah, he does.
Scratch his nose hair a little bit.
Anything up in there?
I would laugh if all of a sudden that figure on that blanket just started moving, like Wendy jumped through it and
Oh, dude. Read Brandon's comment there. Blew a $23,000 motor and got a $290 check.
Mercury will take it to a good Merc dealer like Bill's Marine and Sky took, and Merc ought to honor that warranty. If they're any kind of company, they'll honor it. They'll Goodwill it. I don't know who told you it's 3 weeks out of warranty and they won't warranty it, but take it somewhere else. Bring it up to Albers. It's good. Tell Seth, Kyle Kister said, Mercury needs to Goodwill that motor.
Wow. Bang the gavel on that.
They have in the past. I've seen it happen. It's not a fictional character. It's not like Sasquatch or the Loch Ness Monster. Like,
you take that back.
Mercury has Goodwill warranties before, and if they're a platinum dealer, and I know they are, hey, cut this guy some slack. 3 weeks out of warranty, yada yada yada.
Yeah.
Let's hope so. Oh, Rick from Oak Island. Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay, Brad, I see that too.
I don't watch that show much. Once in a while.
I haven't for a long time.
Well, lucky for you guys, I've watched it for 7 years now. So.
Oh, good. You watched it for all of us.
Mm-hmm. Still waiting on the money pit to pump something out besides a stinking piece of timber.
Next week they'll find it, Kyle.
In a couple weeks, I'm going to Nova Scotia and finding it for them because I'm sick of it.
Well, don't tell them you're going to find it.
Yeah, that'll run the show. Who do we have next week? Is that a done deal?
Yeah, I think so. I believe so. We have Matt Pangrack back on the show. Panger,
Cool.
fresh off his win medaling at the USA Bass or Bass USA. I'm not sure what it's called. They went to Mexico and he was on Team USA and they won a team deal or fifth in the team deal or something. No, I don't know what place they got. I think Panger and his partner won the individual
Yeah, I believe so.
side. Andrew Loberg, maybe?
Or Upshaw.
Upshaw. Him and Upshaw, I think, won the team. The individual side, which would be a team. And I'm not sure what the Team USA made. Did they win the whole thing?
I thought they
think
won
so.
gold.
Yeah, I think they all won, and they won the individual. So, yeah, fresh off that, that'll be interesting to talk about his trip down there and going across the border and all that stuff.
Fishing
That'd
against
be
a lot of international anglers. That's pretty
fishing
cool.
against international guys, yeah. And he can talk more about the Mexico. Like he's partners, I think one of the lodges down there sponsors his show or whatever, so he can talk a little bit more about that. I'd love to make that trip sometime, but it's not cheap. It's like $2,500. But I'd love to make that trip sometime. It's $2,500, but you just basically they pick you up at the airport and provide everything from the boats to the rods and reels. You bring your own reels, I believe. I guess you can, but even if you don't, they have rods and reels, like not cheap rods and reels, and the boats have like live scope on them and everything, so they're not like the old tin. Like I think they're Rangers. They might be aluminum Rangers, but I don't know. Maybe not. But he can talk more about that. That'll be cool.
I'm going to Mexico in a couple months, or in a month, I guess, month and a half. Unfortunately, I'm not going to chase after 10-pounders, but
Why not?
I bet he's laying on the beach.
Maybe you can chase 10 1-pounders and then drink them all.
Yeah, hey, America.
we might go on it. We may be going on excursion if I can talk my spouse into it.
Where are you going?
That's a good question.
I mean, they're not close. Most of those aren't really close to. Like if you're going to Cozumel, I don't think where the bass are is anywhere near that.
We're going to overlook the Caribbean Ocean.
Yeah,
Oh,
so I don't.
You're not going fishing.
No.
Well, hold on, guys.
You can go deep sea fishing.
Just hold on a minute here. What? Get your 60-year-old brains to function for just a little bit longer here. I know it's starting to get late.
Oh,
there is a chance.
I'm not in that category.
There is the guy's on the right-hand side of my screen.
Oh, okay.
There is a chance that I might be able to go on a 3-hour excursion.
I've seen that TV show.
What's it called?
Gilligan's Island. You're not even going to finish your damn story, are you?
if you're going from Caribbean to the Bacharach or whatever the lakes are over there.
I'm probably not going to go too much further inland than the gates of the resort.
Probably a good
It's
plan.
it's kind of a spooky situation in Mexico.
It's like
right?
a Disney.
Yeah.
They got a bass pond in the resort.
I hope they just have some sort of a, hey, we've got some cool guys that'll maybe take you out in the salt water in a vessel.
That'd be okay.
You can do that.
I think that would be kind of cool.
It'll
The
be a
next
good
thing you
trip.
know, you're trying to unload cargo in South Florida. They roped you into it.
If they hand you any boxes that smell like coffee,
I'll be honest with you.
move them quickly.
Memorial weekend, we went out to the lake, and Emily's grandma and grandpa found out that we were going to Old Mexico on a little trip. And I told them, said, look, here's the deal. If I cut a deal with a cartel, I'm an American. I've got a passport that's supposed to be here Friday because Emily renewed it, and it's in the checks in the mail deal. One shipment, guys. One and done. No judgment passed. I did a deal for them. I don't have to work for a while. Next thing you know, I'm a lazy bum on Grand Lake.
True.
I'm giving John $100 every weekend to just hang out. What's up? Let's cook some steaks and watch a fire.
Fishing the Wednesday ABAs.
Yeah.
I like
Sounds like a good plan. Or you could get second in the big bass tournament this weekend, and that'll help pay for a little bit.
Second.
Second.
Mm-hmm. I see where he's going with this.
How many ounces are you going to allow me to come in behind you? Because if it's only 0.01.
Well, mine is going to weigh 6.87.
Boom. Oh, yeah. So you get the truck and stuff.
So if mine
I will win and get the truck.
So if mine weighs 6.86,
That's
I'm going to
fine.
be more than double pissed on the way. We might need to cut a deal.
I got the secret weapon. I'm fishing with my pastor.
You do have the secret weapon. I got the secret weapon. I'm fishing out of a 99-203 champion. And I'm only taking 7 rods.
I mean, you're just
I don't
gonna
know
put
if I'm
in
taking that many.
you're just gonna put it in the river up in Kansas side, aren't you, and float on down into Grand?
Well, it says ain't navigable water, and
That's gonna be navigable, right? This rate.
the tournament starts at safe light at 6. So it's just one fish. It's just one cast. It just matter. You just better make sure it's the right fish and the right cast, and you better get it in the net.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you guys get this all worked out because gonna have to have you on the show you're already on.
Yeah, when you win.
And you're gonna have to go before Bill, because Bill just said he's gonna be on next week. So
yeah. Well, I think he means the week after he wins.
Week after he wins, yeah.
Which is actually the week after next. So
I already told the guys I'm not coming in Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday if I win. I'm taking the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off.
Yeah.
That's a good plan.
I like it.
Yeah, Thursday and Friday's cool, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays kind of suck.
Yeah.
You might get to sleep by Wednesday night if you win.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm gonna sleep like a baby that night if I win. Because we could use the money right now.
Oh, the
Gearing
gammies.
up. Treble hooks.
Good old gammies.
Yep.
Hmm.
Well, fellas,
You know, I was going to save John's little video to our private chat with his buzzbait shipment. I was going to play that. Maybe we'll do that for next week. Parting thought tonight, guys, and I just remembered it myself. I'm sorry, Mr. Crank, but we still have Mr. Crank's favorite fishing memory
Yes.
project, and I know I want to do a couple different ones, and I can't for the life of me remember to do it. So somebody remember to do one and send it to Crank so that we can maybe if we had enough, we could just show a few every show.
Danny, I'd hate to interrupt, but I would like to call Crank out right now
Uh-oh.
and
Oh, my.
ask him how he would like it sent to him. Because if you're a dumb redneck like me, how am I going to take a video and how would you like it sent to you?
That's a good question. I put down email, but I understand that file size might be too large to email. I'm gonna think of something. I'll think of something, and I'll talk about it next week.
They could message it to the Idle Zone Facebook page.
Yeah.
Okay, they can.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, man.
Or I might have to make like a
take a video, save it in your photos, go to messages, Facebook, attach it, hit send.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Thank you.
Even the almost 60-year-old got that.
Thank you, John.
There's no almost about it, Kyle.
Oh, is it here?
He's there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He's working on 61.
Oh, I was trying to be nice.
I am too. We should be thankful instead of regret.
I am grateful that I wake up every morning.
Amen.
Take us out of here.
We're drifting away. Guys, thanks for watching. It was a great show with Bill Lowen, super guy. Man, make a video. Send it to Crank.
Please?
30 seconds, a minute. No more than that because we don't, because of the file size.
Mm-hmm.
Check us out. Peace, man.